business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the pod.
Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. Every episode is an invitation, absolutely a reminder that business and life isn't just about profit. It's about purpose. It's about showing up with a servant's heart in every deal, every decision, every day to make a powerful impact on others. My guest is going to light you up today. He's all the way in Trinidad, where we all want a vacation in the Bahamas. He actually lives there. And I'm excited because he's my second Trinidadian, if that's how I say it, person from Trinidad. But more importantly, what he's going to do is going to motivate you. He's going to challenge you. And I think the best part, you're going to walk away with tools, including yoga tips that I'm going to ask him that will inspire action both in your life, but the most important thing is the lives of others. So sharing this out. So before we dive in, here's your homework today. How are you going to serve yourself and serve others today? I'll tell you one way you can serve yourself is do yoga or meditate. And we're going to talk about that. So start with that, then go serve somebody else. And it doesn't have to be a big impact. Even a small act of kindness or courage can change the game. So lean in, take notes. Let's discover how servant leadership in business and life can create ripple effects that last far beyond that bottom line. Quick shout out to my sponsor, Epic Impact, the only universal, emotionally resonant messaging framework that works anywhere for any audience. This 4-step system transformed how I pitch, how I post my podcast, and how I develop my podcast. So I can help you engage, persuade, inspire, and close with clarity. I use it daily and it works. So here's your free copy. Just go to epicimpact.ai with promo code Steve to start inspiring action today. So let's jump in. And Troy, welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me. And I've been doing this long enough to know how much work it takes to have a podcast. So I just like to make a note to anyone listening who might not be aware. I just want to say thank you to you for the work you do, because you told me you had 800 plus shows. Like, I have a fair idea of how much work that is. And thank you for giving people like myself a voice and giving your listeners such as this amazing info, content.
Well, as you do, as we learned before the show, I learned about you and reading about you. Impact is very important. We do it in many different ways. I'm a podcast. You're with yoga and spirituality. But, a question with yoga, can anybody do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I also think some people do it and don't even know they're doing it.
Tell us more. That's interesting.
Yeah, because I believe I was practicing yoga even before I knew what yoga was. You see, when we think of yoga, we think of postures, physical practice, chanting, breathing practices, all this stuff, meditation. All of these are just tools of yoga. The embodiment of yoga is love. And the greatest yoga practitioner or yogi that has ever walked the planet, my greatest teacher, was Christ. And, the philosophy of yoga is one in which all separation dissolves. It's not, yoga means to yoke or to join. And I once heard our teacher say brilliantly, he says, you can't join what was never separate. So to me, the practice of yoga and the living of yoga is those times when we're able to move beyond our individual identity to serve something greater than ourselves, to see God in the eyes of every human being in all of creation. That is the practice of yoga. And I know for a fact there are many people that practice that and don't do what we would traditionally call yoga, yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I'm thinking. I call it dirty dog, but what's one of the poses? Downward dog.
Downward dog.
Yeah. I always say dirty dog. Audience, you probably go, what a crazy guy. I don't know. It's just, I don't know, maybe I think it's dirty, but because I ran fitness center. Well, me and my family own fitness centers, and my wife's been in fitness 35 years, her sister as well, and they've taught yoga. Talk about, for the layman that's like, oh yeah, I see yoga on TV and movies and TV shows. What is
Yeah.
really yoga about besides love?
To me, I try not to use this. I use this word very carefully because I know so many people can be triggered by it. But yoga is about cultivating one's relationship to God. And the first chapter in my book is called Redefining God, because when I use the word God, I use it very loosely. I don't believe you can put God into a box. And I believe every individual has the right to define their own relationship to divinity. And whatever that looks like, I think it's really important that every individual has that opportunity and that feels they can do that. Because if an individual doesn't connect to some idea of divine agency or intelligence, well, then Steve and Troy will always be separate. And we will always see ourselves as a separate individual navigating a world with 8 million people. And if we ever hope to really acknowledge our connectivity, our sameness, our wholeness, there must be something that connects us, even if we call it differently and see it differently. Yeah. So to me, somebody might say, well, how the hell is doing these postures or whatever connecting me or deepening my relationship to God? Well, the second teaching of Yoga Sutra 1.2, it said yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. And what that means is yoga is the quieting of the fluctuations of the mind. And the mind is where the ego lives. The mind is where the sense of individual identity lives. And that ego only knows one thing for certain. That is that we will leave our bodies one day and it will cease to exist. So the unconscious programming of our minds is my desires, my needs, my wants, my security, my safety. And as long as the mind is in charge and the mind is guiding us unconsciously, we'll always be living somewhat selfish lives.
Yeah, it's powerful.
So
the word you use, go ahead.
To me, the practice of yoga, which gives us the ability to cultivate a relationship with our mind and quiet the noise of the mind, then when we do that, we can hear the voice of God. We can start to live lives beyond our need for my needs, my wants, my desires, and serve something bigger than ourselves. So in my opinion, whether someone comes to yoga for that reason or not, it's only inevitable that they begin to quiet the mind and begin to live their life in a different way. It might take years, it might take a lifetime, but it happens.
It's a beautiful message. And your message of it's an opportunity, invitation. It's not you have to do yoga. You have an opportunity to do it, opportunity to connect with God. If you so desire, we hope, me and you both hope they do, but that's a beautiful message because the world is not about opportunity now. It's about push, pitch, push, all that noise that you talk about.
Yeah, and the world is so loud. And if we look at the mind is often concerned with what would people think? What would people say? How would it be received? How am I going to pay my bills tomorrow? Am I going to be remembered? Am I going to be loved? Am I going to be able to love? But all these things that's the noise of the mind. And, it's so hard for some people just to be still and be with themselves. And nothing for me is more scary. Because if you're not at peace with yourself, how are we actually going to have a world where we're at peace with each other if you can't be at peace with yourself?
Yeah.
And I often describe, when people say, well, of course, there are many ways to do this. It's not just yoga. You might call it meditation, prayer, so many different ways. And I always tell people to think of your mind as a little child or maybe as your spouse. But think of it as a marriage or relationship where there's no escape. So there's no separation, there's no divorce. There's no, this ain't working for me, I'm going to walk away and choose a different mind. It's not that. So think of you're in a relationship with a little child or your partner. What does harmony and intimacy look like? You have to spend quality time together. And if you don't spend quality time with your partner and give them your genuine attention, they're going to start to scream and shout and rebel and act out to get your attention. And you know, there's so many people in the world now suffering from anxiety or depression or overwhelm and stress. And essentially, that's what's happening. We don't have a relationship with our mind or our body, so we can't regulate the nervous system or quiet the mind. So we live in an overwhelmed state, you know?
Definitely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the book. I'm excited to hear more about what's the title of the book. What we're going to learn when we read it.
Can you repeat that for me again?
The book.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the book title and what we're going to learn from the book.
Man, the book is what we're going to learn from the book. What a beautiful question. Can I curse on your show?
Sure can.
All right. Well, we're going to learn how to get our head out our ass and remember what it means to love. And, you know, the book wasn't always called My Name is Love. It was called Popcorn in My Pocket. And then my editor and some of my advisors were like, listen, this book has the content is way too powerful for such a flowery name. And what the book does in many different ways is it shows us how our obsession with identity inhibits our capacity to love each other. And that's why the book is called My Name is Love. Because that's the only thing I can identify with. I don't identify as Troy because Troy and Steve are separate. I don't identify as a religion because that separates me from anyone who doesn't identify with that religion. I don't identify with a race, a nationality, or an opinion because that, again, creates more separation and division. I identify with the one thing that makes us all the same, and that is love. So my name is love. And in so many ways, the book, you know, it tells stories of my life and reflections and teachings of my own introspection. And then it asks the reader to ask a question. How does it show up for you? What does this mean for you in your life? Because I feel that in a world of spirituality or spiritual journey, be it religious or otherwise, or anyone seeking to be a better human being, we read the right books, we say the right things, we talk about the right things, we repost the right things on social media, but a lot of the time there's a disconnect towards the embodiment of that. So, and we have a hard time connecting the dots. So it's really essential that the book asks the reader to reflect on how does this apply to my life?
People listening are loving love. Weird way to say that, but are trying to seek it, find it. Yeah. Where is it? What's the first step they should take to try to find love for themselves?
They first need to understand that love has many forms. And I think we get caught up in this narrative of love being flowers and rainbows and butterflies and chocolate. And love is fierce, and love is courageous, and love is uncomfortable. And so, because someone doesn't tell you what you want to hear, that makes you feel good. Because someone doesn't do the things you want or desire them to do, doesn't mean they don't love you. Sometimes the people who love you the most are people who are willing to hold up that mirror and show us the very things we would rather not see. And I think in my book, one of my favorite lines is that we can't really love someone unless we're willing to lose them. Because if we're not willing to lose them, then our love has a codependency layer to it, a codependent layer to it. So I would invite someone to really begin to look at what is love. Because I also offer the perspective in the book that it's really inaccurate to say this is love or this is not love. Like, love is not black and white. I believe love always exists, always. Even in the what appears as darkness and suffering and pain, there is love. The question is, what is being loved? We're all acting from a place of love, but sometimes it's the love of power, it's the love of greed, it's the love of my wants, desires, and needs over someone else. You know, so it's about acknowledging and asking question in this moment, what is being loved? And when we start to ask that question, a whole possibility opens up. Because if I say this situation is devoid of love, then love is dead. It cannot grow there anymore. If I say this situation is love, but it's a self-serving love, that now gives us the opportunity to see how we can take that love, turn it around, and use it to serve something bigger than ourselves.
You know, you're incredible. It's so simple, but so hard, because our mind, our head, like you're saying, and it's beautiful. But the other thing, you're incredible. You walked coast to coast in Central America.
Yeah, it was 30 days. It was
30 days you walked?
30 days, yeah.
Holy moly. Tell us about that adventure.
But it sounds a lot more impressive than it really was, to be honest.
All right.
It was in a group of 10 people, and it was one of those, you ever heard of Outward Bound?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was an Outward Bound course with a group of people, and we walked 30 days so it wasn't like me alone walking through a jungle. We walked from the Caribbean coast to the Pacific coast. It took us over 30 days. That was when I was 21.
Wow.
Yeah, and that definitely at a young age brought me face with some of my emotions that I never met before.
So that's the big thing that you learned from that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I learned as well, I mean, I tried to bail. That story's in my book. I tried to bail because about 10 days in, I was like, I had enough. I was like, I can't do this. I can't believe I paid for this experience, right? Because we were walking 10 to 12 hours a day, pouring rain. You never had dry clothes. You really didn't. It was just misery. It was misery. And one of the guys I was with, he got injured and he had to be evacuated. And I was like, this is my chance. So I made up this story about how my grandmother was dying and I had to call home to see if she was still alive. And all I wanted to hear was my mother. I was 21 years old, right? I was still living at home. All I wanted to hear was my mother's voice saying, get out of there, to validate my experience. So I made up this story to call home, and I told myself if my mom wasn't home, it would be a sign that I had to finish. And I called home, and the gardener answered, and he was like, your mom's not home. And I was like, fuck. So I ended up finishing that trek. But what that proved to me was that I can really do anything I put my mind to.
Yeah. And you also proved misery has love with it.
Yeah. And
that's what you're teaching me.
Yeah, that misery, that experience, in that moment, I had a choice, Steve. I could go through the rest of that trip in agony, pessimistic, just dwelling on all the discomfort, all the suffering, all the pain. But I had to choose, that story is in a chapter on faith in my book, I believe. I had to choose and decide to trust that experience and know that it held growth and transformation for me. And in that faith, I had to choose to show up. Like I could drag myself through it like it was the worst experience of my life, or I could show up and engage with it. And I think once I showed up to engage with it, that's when it turned to magic.
Yeah, that's a powerful story. What a great story. We're coming to the end, but I want to ask you about the future of humanity. Big question, I know, but coming from where you're coming from with love, what's the next 2 to 3 years look like? We're probably past COVID, but there'll be something else that comes into the world.
Yeah.
What do you think humanity needs to do to change, to be better?
Yeah. I think I'll answer that in two parts, Steve. I think the biggest thing plaguing humanity has existed for a very, very, very long time. And it is this sense of individual identity. From the day where we live in an identity crisis, from the day we're born, we're given a name. And I was told that this is my body and my name is Troy. So from the moment that happened, my reality became one in which I was separate from everyone and everything else. And I think that is the biggest issue plaguing humanity. It is at the very foundation of everything that is wrong with our world. Because from that comes my needs, my desires, my wants, my pride, my survival, my bank account, my land, my country, my wife, my friends, my everything. From that, all separation and division is born. And I think we need to start to move beyond that. We need to start to see beyond that and recognize there's nothing anyone can do for me, Steve, to make me believe that this is who I am. I know this body is not who I am. While it serves me and my ego serves me, because this is a human experience, this is not who I am. And once we begin to reprogram that understanding, then we can begin to see beyond our sense of individual identity and all layers of our identity that create separation and division in our world.
Well said.
I can't remember what the second part to my answer was. Oh, yes. I think we as humanity need to recognize that there's one certainty for human species. At one point, we will not exist. The universe does not revolve around us. And there are a lot of very heavy negative things happening in our world. It's very easy for someone to look at our world and put their hands up and say, F this. I want no part of this. I'm going to walk away from society. I'm going to walk away from responsibility. I'm going to go live in the South Pacific and surf for the rest of my life. But then there's a voice that comes up for me in my head. And I want to plant the seed of this voice into everyone else's mind. And that voice says this. It says, how dare you? It says, with all that you've been given, how dare you not at least try every day to the best of your ability to show up from a place of love and be a light in a world that appears as darkness from time to time. And I know it gets heavy. And yes, there are times when we need to walk away and we need to take a time out. And we need to replenish and serve ourselves. But this what we call in the world now self-love, if that self-love doesn't prepare us to serve something bigger than ourselves, it's just selfish.
Yeah.
So my question is, how dare we not at least try every day to the best of our ability to be a light in a world that sometimes appears as dark, and to bring as much love to humanity as we possibly can. That's it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Bring the light. I love it.
Yeah.
This is really good. Let's end with a fun question. So in Trinidad, we're in a restaurant. I reserve a table for you. You're going to sit in one of the chairs. You have 3 empty chairs. Who are you going to invite to sit there to talk about love, to talk about humanity? Somebody you have never been able to talk to. But more importantly, what food would you order? Which I think I know the answer, but what food would you order for the table?
What kind of restaurant is it?
Whatever you decide. What's your favorite?
Oh, I would probably choose something Asian. Is that good enough?
Yes, very good.
Something Asian. It'd probably either be Japanese food or Indian food.
Okay.
That's what I'll order. Now, in regards to the 2 available seats, do they have to be living in their body, or can they have left their body?
They have left their body.
They could have left their body. 100%, I would say Christ. And for the next available seat, I would have Donald Trump and Putin sit on each other's lap.
I've done this 500 times. That's a new one for me. Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
And I think because, Steve, it's so important for us to recognize now, you may have some listeners that agree with Donald Trump's perspective on life and approach. It's cool. I personally think that decision makers and leaders of our world have lost the plot. And it would be very easy for me to look at the people I disagree with, whose perspectives I disagree with, and separate myself from them. I want to give them a hug. I want to sit at the table with them, because and I invite I invite the person I know who understands love and embodying love more than anyone ever, and that is Christ. So I would invite him to sit at the table with us, because some people just, I believe, have never really experienced what love is. And I believe for those of us who do have experienced that, we have a responsibility.
Sure.
Love others and pursue them.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. What a table. Oh my God. I know you've been a great guest. I appreciate you, Troy. Your humbleness and talking about humanity and love it's missing right now. And you're right. We need to bring it back. I know people listening are going to want to reach out to you. How can they connect with you?
Yeah. Well, they can find me at troyhadeed.com is my website.
Okay.
I am on TikTok, Instagram. I'm probably more active on Instagram than TikTok. I reply more anyway. But people can check me out on my website as well, Instagram. I try to post constantly on social media as often as I can. I have some retreats coming up. I would love for anyone interested to join me. One is in Mexico, one is in Panama. People are welcome to come and join me in Trinidad. I also do online private sessions for anyone interested. And of course, there's my book. My name is Love.
It's a great picture.
And it is available on Amazon, and in print and audiobook as well. And I do narrate it myself. If you do like the accent, it was a lot of work, let me tell you.
I can imagine. And kudos to you. Congratulations. And thanks again for being a wonderful guest. And audience, your homework at the end here, subscribing to the YouTube channel or the podcast. And here's why. If you know people missing love in their life, what a better podcast to share than Troy's. Just take the link and go, I just listened to Troy about love. I think it'll help you. What are we doing there? We're impacting people. And that's what love is. How are we going to impact in a positive way other people? Use these podcasts. It doesn't have to be my podcast. Anyone you subscribe to, if it resonates with you, I do this all the time. Share it with people. Bring them light to their life because they might have darkness they didn't know they had or have, and they just need that light. So with that being said, me and Troy want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast, and we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. And I'm going to leave you with this. Let's try to love everyone we meet. Talk to you soon.
Yes.